enough about that. It's time for Wes Anderson. Let's get indie, Ryan.
Yes.
Get your hair out of that bun. Let it flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
feel like I have long enough.
Go
hair.
wear a jumper that's too big for you and be mean to everyone.
It's getting to that weather. I might just take you up on that.
Let's go for it.
Yes.
Wes Anderson, renowned director of such films as
Rushmore, Isle of Dogs,
Moonrise Kingdom,
Grand Budapest Hotel,
Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Your favourite film, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I love that film so much.
You didn't say that right away. I love that
film so much.
A lot of classic films.
A lot of classic films, and his brand new one, The French Dispatch, is what I like to call the Rolodex of Wes Anderson. It's the cast of this film is so big, I didn't even write it all down.
Yes.
I literally wrote the words, see IMDb, because I am not writing down this many people. You have...
It's a who's who of who.
It's a who's who of who's who.
Yeah.
Horton Hears. Now, your cast is... let me get ready. Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Tilda Swinton, Léa Seydoux, Frances McDormand, Timothy Chalamet, Lina Kudry, Jeffrey Wright, Matthew Almeric,
Yeah.
Steve Park, Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, Bob Balaban, Henry Winkler, Lois Smith, Tony Revolori. You also have Saoirse Ronan, Willem Dafoe, Edward Norton, Christoph Waltz, and Liv Schreiber.
A lot of names.
A lot of names.
And we also, there's more that we haven't mentioned as well.
It's kind of crazy, the amount of people who are just stuffed into this film.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's interesting as well, because everyone has at least one little thing to do. But at the same time, this is basically just Wes Anderson being like, he's making a film, but instead of casting extras or no-name actors in small roles, he's just like, oh yeah, we'll give Willem Dafoe a part where he basically says no lines. Yeah. And he just looks.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's brilliant for a director to be able to make that.
One phone call, you want to be, I'll do it for you, Wes. Don't worry. Got you, Andy boy.
Yeah.
It is insane. So let me give you a log line. Editor-in-chief of the long-standing magazine publication, The French Dispatch, dies. He's dead.
Oh.
In his final issue details the events and happenings of France. 3 main features are featured throughout the film, and they take stage, each with their own story, characters, and unique style. Wes Anderson, if you've seen literally any of his films, is known for having one of the strongest and most consistent visual styles of any director.
It's iconic.
It is iconic. It's so iconic you get Twitter accounts saying like accidental Wes Anderson or portraying other films as Wes Anderson simply because they have a symmetrical shot. The man has mastered symmetrical shots. His cinematography skills and camera work are almost impeccable. His set design, his characterization, the way people move, the way people talk, his dialogue, everything is so very unique to him that it's almost impossible to replicate. And if anyone did, they would be simply hailed as an imposter.
Yes.
And once again, here he is doing it really well with an incredible cast of just a tour de force of people that he's just playing around with, and it's a really, really fun film.
It is. I will say, when I was writing small notes for the show, I was very tempted to put as one of the notes Anderson's least funniest film, but I thought that had a negative connotation, so I changed it.
Yeah.
I feel like this is Wes Anderson's saddest film.
It is sad.
I feel like, and it's not to say that this is a depressing film or a dark film or anything like that, but the themes that is dealt with in here are mortality and what to do with life, and it starts right from the beginning with a death. And I think that's something that Wes Anderson has dealt with before in films, but this one more so, because there's a lot of moments in here where the comedy dials back for a very long time. Yeah. This is not a laugh a minute deal. And it's not even absurdity throughout the entire thing. There's moments where my favourite part of this, and we will talk about our favourite segments, but my favourite segment was the third one, which is the kidnapping and a chef gets involved.
Yes.
That is my favourite segment of the film. And there's a moment, and Jeffrey Wright is the main character of that segment, And there's a moment where it just dials back and he's on a talk show. And he goes on a monologue of his past. And it quickly changes aspect ratio and colour format and goes back 20 or so years to a younger Jeffrey Wright also continuing this monologue. And it's beautiful. It's soft. It's very quaint.
Yeah.
But there's no humour in it whatsoever. No. Weirdly enough, this is going to be a very obscure reference, but there's a TV show, well, there was a TV show called The Fast Show, and it was a sketch comedy show. And in, I believe, season 2, one of the recurring sketches is of the drunk man, basically. This drunk man telling old war stories and old stories and laughing through it. But in season 2, there's an episode with one of the sketches in which that drunk man tells a story of love lost, and there's no punchline. And the sketch ends with no joke and just a whimper, basically. And it throws the audience off guard. This is filmed before a live studio audience. It throws the audience off guard, and then they applaud the sketch, and the applause goes into the next sketch. And that is exactly what I felt with a lot of the moments in here. Mm-hmm. Wes Anderson using his ability that has been seen before in so much comedy, but to a very sad and melancholic state. Yes. I was impressed by that more so than the comedy here.
He does very well with everyone he has in this film. Even from the get-go, you have a very short comedy segment that kind of eases you in with Owen Wilson riding on a bicycle around France, and that's very funny. Mm-hmm. But it slowly is like, the way that it goes about it is it's slowly introducing you to basically what we're going to be doing is just following a few main characters, and then there'll be side characters who happen also to be actors you know. Mm-hmm. So you have a main segment with Benicio del Toro and Lea Seydoux and Adrian Brody, who are all being narrated by Tilda Swinton, and their stories kind of interconnect and intertwine, and that's a very lovely tale of art and how we perceive art and the way that other people perceive art and how you're supposed to separate art from the artist. I personally, this segment was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Not only is it probably the funniest segment, I'd say, but it's also the one that, I don't know, I really enjoy watching Adrian Brody in this.
Yeah.
I think he's a lot of fun with what he's doing. And I like all the little side characters they have. Benicio del Toro and Lea Seydoux are also fantastic in it as well.
Yeah.
The middle segment, in my eyes, is maybe the weakest of the three.
Yeah, I feel the exact same. However, I will say, and I can't believe I'm away to say
Clip this.
I think Timothée Chalamet does a fantastic job in this film. And I can't believe that those words came out of my mouth.
Excuse me, sir. Could you sign here, please, to admit that you just said those words on live radio?
Timothée Chalamet. If you've heard the show when we've been talking about a Timothée film before, you know that I really can't stand him as an actor.
Oh, that's putting it lightly. You despise the man.
I do, because I always think that his roles are so typecast and they're so similar, and that he's only got one mode.
He's just jealous.
I'm just jealous.
Ryan's just jealous.
I'm very jealous.
All the girls want the pretty indie boy.
But in here, and this was the one that I thought that he could really shine in, and he does. Wes Anderson knows exactly what to do with an actor like Timothée Chalamet, and it works so well. And I was impressed. I would love to see more things like this from Timothée Chalamet, or at least for him to attempt other things. I always
thought Timothée was already in a Wes Anderson film, because he seems like such a Wes Anderson actor.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, interesting.
But yeah, I agree with you that the second segment is unfortunately the weakest, but it's not bad necessarily. All of it is good, but that's the problem with anthology films in general. You end up comparing the stories being told with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a negative I have with the film.
It is. It's not a perfect film by any means. No. It's still very good. If you're a Wes Anderson film, you will love this, as I think you will with all of his films. I don't think Wes Anderson has ever really made an entirely bad film.
No.
They've all been at least somewhat good.
Yeah.
Some weaker than others, obviously, and I think the French Dispatch maybe speaks for that. But it does sometimes feel quite disconnected from what it is doing. However, in the end, bringing it all together does feel quite satisfying.
Yeah.
It's still good, and it's still really enjoyable to watch. And again, without Wes Anderson's iconic and gorgeous visual style, I don't think any of his films would be doing as well as they do.
No. But there's a few moments in this which are standout moments from his whole filmography, I think. I remember saying to you shortly after we left the cinema that this feels like his most cinematic film, and I think I still stand by that. There's so many shifts in aspect ratio and color grading, and it goes multiple times to wide shots, specifically in the art segment with Benicio del Toro. And there's moments where we get full widescreen in this film, which is mostly 4:3, and when it changes, the actual feel of the film changes as well. It becomes more of like a blockbuster feel.
It does. I found the way that Wes Anderson plays around with the aspect ratio in this film is also very fun. Mm-hmm. There are moments where the screen will be 4:3, however, text will appear outside of the 4:3 aspect ratio.
The whole screen is in play.
The whole screen's in play.
It's just that the 4:3 is the movie that you're watching.
It's a lot of fun to see. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the use of color there as well adds to that a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's so visually exciting that you could watch this film as a visual spectacle and get enough from it.
Yes.
Not really caring about the rest of it. That's how good it is visually. And there's also Wes Anderson's done 2 stop motion animation films before with Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs. But there's a 2D cartoon segment approach to one of the scenes in here, which I honestly thought was brilliant, the highlight of the film.
Yes. And
it makes me want to see what Wes Anderson could do with a fully animated 2D animated film like that. It flows in the exact way that you think a Wes Anderson film will flow in that moment, but in a hilarious way. It's one of the funniest scenes, I think.
It is. It's one of those standout.